It's once again time for my top picks of gear for 2023. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, I'm Cole Caparoon. Thank you for stopping by for another video. I've been doing this the last several years. However, this year we're going to do it a little bit different. I'm going to do this in three categories. My favorite new releases of 2023, the gear that just came out. My favorite gear that I used for the first time in 2023, even though it may have come out in 2022 or 2021. And then a bunch of honorable mentions. There's a crazy amount of hardware and microphones and plugins and all kinds of stuff mentioned in this video. And as always, there'll be links in the description below for everything that I talk about. You can pick up just about everything on this list from Sweetwater. Sweetwater sponsoring this video. So anytime you guys need anything that's musically related, you can jump on any one of my videos and click on any one of the links in the description. And once you're on the site, you can purchase anything you need. And when you do that, it costs you nothing extra. It goes a long ways to help me keep making videos like this. So thank you, Sweetwater, for sponsoring this video. Thanks to you guys for using the links in the description when you need to buy anything. New releases of 2023. Now, I obviously can't do my favorite new releases of 2023 without mentioning my signature preamp from Cappy. I feel very fortunate to have a signature version of something, of anything out there. And this truly is, if I had to pick one preamp to use for the rest of my life, this would absolutely be it. And I feel very fortunate to have it. It's so awesome sounding. It is incredible on the mix bus, and I've been using it for a long time now, and it's just so good. All of this stuff is subjective, but to me, it's my favorite preamp I've ever used, including some crazy high-end vintage stuff. Next up is a new release from 2023 is the Audioscape 260 VU. I have full videos on a lot of this stuff that I'm gonna mention, and I'll put video links in the description below if you wanna go watch the full videos of any of these pieces of gear that I've done full videos on. This Audioscape 260 is so good sounding. Like from the moment I heard it for the first time, I was like, yep, this is going on my drum bus forever. And it has. I think I got it in April, somewhere around April, and it has been on my drum bus for every single song since it showed up. I just can't say enough good things about it. They absolutely knocked it out of the park. It looks incredible. It sounds incredible. It feels incredible. Audioscape 260 VU. Next up is the Rupert Neve Design Newton channel. Now, I was not really a channel strip guy. I never have been, because usually in channel strips, you're compromising something. You either don't have that full featured of an EQ, or the compressor is a one knob compressor, or there's usually some compromises in a channel strip. And this Newton channel strip definitely changed my mind on that. Not only does it sound absolutely incredible, but I don't feel held back by it. The fact that it has a high pass filter with a 3-band EQ, and the fact that the compressor is a very intelligent compressor. It has just enough adjustability, and the things that are not adjustable on the compressor, I never felt the need to tweak. It's very smart compressor, and the saturation in it is absolutely incredible. This is the first channel strip that made me change my stance on it. I absolutely love this channel strip. And as of right now, of the gear that I've used and of the channel strips I've tried, if you're in the market for a channel strip that has a preamp, an EQ, and a compressor, this is my top pick of all of them. And it's a bonus that it has the silk saturation built into it. Totally blown away by it. And while we're on the Rupert Neve Design, the Rupert Neve Design MBT is also one of my favorite mix bus tools that I tried of the year. Now, I was using this in conjunction with my signature preamp, my Cappy Runes, but it is so good sounding. The EQ sounds so good, and how, just like with the Newton channel, how the high pass works with the low band EQ, it's just so easy to get stuff super thick and it still sounds good. It's kind of the thickest my mixes have ever been, while it's still sounding appropriate for the song. I don't really know how to put it into words, but it's so easy to get such big, thick, gooey low end. It's awesome. And the fact that for the first time ever, you have red and blue silk simultaneously independent of one another, and you can blend the red and blue together. I can't say enough good things about this. It is so good. Next up, microphone, the Lawton Audio Snare Mic. I really love this microphone. It sounds out of the microphone what I want the snare to sound like after the mix. I usually have to add a bunch of low end, and I usually have to like compress it and then add saturation and all kinds of stuff to my snare drums to get them to sound how I want them to sound. And this microphone just does like 90% of that for me. It just does exactly what I want. It is a very thick sounding microphone, but it does have high pass and low pass switches on it. So if you want that more traditional sound out of a 57 or something, you can just use the high pass controls and move it right into that character if you don't want that super thick, thuddy snare drum sound. So it's the most versatile sounding microphone because of those switches, snare drum that I've ever used. But I like it flat. It just sounds exactly how I want my snare drums to sound. It is a very impressive microphone, and I'm really pumped to have one. Okay, next up, the brand new Focal Trio 6s that came out 2 or 3 months ago. I only got to spend a long afternoon with these. I haven't had them in my studio, and I haven't mixed on them. So I want to put that disclaimer in there. However, the time I spent with them, they were very impressive. They did a lot of work redesigning these, and everything about it feels better. The high end feels better, the mid-range and the transparency of the mid-range, the speed, the transient response of the mid-range, the clarity in the low end, the quantity of the low end. They're really impressive. I am pumped to get this room done, so maybe I can get a pair in here and give a full review of them. But spending time with them and reviewing lots and lots of music, I listened to them for 3 or 4 hours, and I found them really impressive. Definitely the most impressive new speaker release that I got to hear. Now, let me put another disclaimer in here. I obviously didn't try every newly released piece of gear that came out in 2023. That's almost impossible. But I do pay pretty close attention to stuff that gets released, and I do get to at least hear lots of stuff that gets released. And so even if I haven't put it on a song in my productions, I feel like I have a pretty good handle on what's going on. However, there's no way that I could possibly actually spend time with every new piece of gear that gets released. So if your favorite new piece of gear isn't on this video, sorry. It's not because I don't like it. I may not have had a chance to use it enough to feel I could put it in this video. And with that, there are 2 pieces of gear that I am going to mention right now that I have not used at all. But man, do they have my attention. The first one is the brand new Empirical Labs Pump 500 series compressor. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the Pump, Empirical Labs makes the Distressor. And then they created a plug-in version called the Arouser. Now, the Arouser wasn't supposed to be a copy of the Distressor in plug-in form. The Arouser was like a Distressor flavored plug-in that kind of had its own thing. And this very quickly became one of my favorite plug-in compressors. Now, this came out a few years ago, but I really got to terms with it this year in 2023, and it wound up on everything. Every single song had some version, had an instance of the Arouser plugin somewhere. Now, what is very interesting about the Empirical Labs Pump is they took that plugin with its attack modification and a few other things that are only on the plugin, and they made a hardware version of it, which is just might be the first time I've ever heard of a company doing that, starting with the plugin, creating a version of it in hardware. So while I have not had them here in my room, and I haven't even spent any time with them, I know, in my opinion, because the hardware versions of plugins are always like 5 or 10% better. They just are, in my opinion. I know that this is going to be incredible. And my goal for this year, for 2024, is to get a pair of the Empirical Labs pumps in here and really spend time with them and probably do a full video, because I think that they're one of the most fascinating releases of 2023, even though I didn't get to use them. Next would be the SSL B Dynamics. Now, this is a 500 series Dynamics module out of the B series consoles. I'm probably going to screw some of this up because I'm doing this off the top of my head. But basically the compressor side of it is a more or less a single channel version of the G bus compressor, or of the bus compressor in the B series consoles, which there were not very many consoles made, 2 or 3 or 6 or something like that. So the fact that there's a single channel version of the SSL bus compressor, this really, really intrigues me. And so again, I haven't used these yet. It is very high on my list of things to try out this coming year, but I definitely wanted to give it a shout out here because it's a very intriguing idea to have a single channel SSL bus compressor. I like that idea a lot. Next up, my favorite gear that I used for the first time in 2023. Maybe it didn't come out in 2023, but it was the first time that I had hands on with it in 2023. First up, the Lawton Audio Atlantis. I really cannot say enough good things about this microphone. Now, I haven't done a full video on this, but this Lawton Audio Atlantis has won more vocal shootouts than every other microphone combined that I own. Like, it's won 60 or 70% of the vocal shootouts that I did in 2023. Every time I work with a new singer or on a new song, I set up a handful of microphones that I think will have the right character for that song and for that artist. And I have them sing a verse and a chorus through it. And then we listen and we choose the microphone that's right for the singer and for the song. And this Lawton Audio Atlantis just keeps winning. And I didn't expect that because it's like $1,800. I'll put a link down below if you want to go check it out. It's like $1,800, and it's beating out microphones that are 2 and 3 times this expensive on a regular basis. It has a 38 millimeter capsule, which I think is part of the secret sauce. So it sounds very open, it sounds very detailed, it sounds crispy if you want it to, but it never sounds harsh because I guess because of the bigger capsule. It has this switch on the back that is forward and neutral and gentle all the way down. And this completely changes the character of the microphone. Forward is very modern sounding. It's really kind of like a Manley Reference cardioid, only less harsh. And then the neutral is very, I don't even know what to compare it to. It's between like a 67 and an 87 maybe. And then gentle is like soft and vintage sounding. And between those, and it really changes the whole character of the microphone. I don't know how they're doing that, but it just keeps winning. It just keeps winning. And it's on the microphone spectrum, very affordable. I'll put a link down below. Okay, studio monitors. The Focal Solo 6s that I have in my B room, right? It's right there. I've been running those for 6 months now. I think for 6 months they've been over there, and everything that I've worked on, every piece of music that I've worked on while this room is tore down, and lots of mixing, lots of mastering, some producing, and mixed every single video in there. They're really good. I'm shocked at how good they sound for their size. They fit that room really well. They're very detailed sounding. I really like them a lot for that size of monitor. I have not used any other monitor in that size that I like nearly as much as those monitors. Now, admittedly, I haven't tried all of the options out there, but I've listened to a bunch and I've worked on a bunch, and those are just, for right now, those are my favorites that I have ever heard in that price range and in that size. I can't say enough good things about them. And I think the Solo 6s with a sub might be one of the best bang for buck monitoring packages that you can possibly buy. Okay, plug-in. My favorite plug-in that I first started using in 2023 is a plug-in by a company called Goodhertz, and it's called Toop 3. It's a saturation plugin that has both tape and tube saturation in it, and it is very versatile, and it sounds good on everything. You put it on anything and you start turning the saturation up and everything sounds better. It's on so many on so many channels on my mixes these days. And even you guys have seen it when I've given examples of how to mix certain things over the past 6 or 8 months. You've seen this plugin in multiple videos. So I'll put a link down below. It's a really, really good saturation plugin. I like it a lot. Guitar amps. This could only possibly be the Fender 64 Custom Deluxe hand-wired that was featured in the video that I did with Tyler Bryant. Now again, I'll put a link to all of these videos down below. If I've done a video on one of these pieces of gear, I'll put a link down below. This amp, now I've used lots of amps in 2023 because I'm constantly recording people, not only with my collection of amps, but people that bring amps in and I record them on their own amps. And man, this amp is just so good. This came out in 2017 or 2018. It's been out for a long time. It took me until 2023 to get my hands on one for myself. And it has wound up on every single song that I've tracked guitars on that I've worked on, that's really saying something. It's so good. Check out the video that I did with Tyler Bryant. He's such an amazing guitar player, and he makes that amp sound better than I could possibly make it sound. So be sure to check that out. It's one of my favorite videos I did of 2023. Next up, for gear that I used for the first time in 2023 that did not come out in 2023 would be the Grace M905 monitor controller. It's perfect. As far as monitors as far as monitor controllers go, it's perfect. It's not cheap, and it's definitely not for hobbyists. But if you want the best monitor controller that you can get, I think it's the best option out right now. I did a whole video going over the importance of monitor controllers and how it can really impact the quality of your mixes. But really, this monitor sounds absolutely incredible, but its ease of use and its seamlessness, the fact that I don't ever have to think about it throughout the entire process, whether I'm tracking an artist or a singer, whether I'm mixing, whether I'm switching between monitors, whether I'm capturing the monitor output for tutorials here on YouTube, it just does everything flawlessly and easily. And I can't say enough good things about it, which leads me on to my honorable mentions. Now, these are not maybe my favorite pieces of gear, but they are pieces of gear that really had an impact on my year, that really were, I couldn't do a video like this without at least mentioning them, regardless of when they came out. So we've got 2 plugins, and they're both from Plugin Alliance, and the first one is the AMEK 250 Mastering EQ. This was on sale just recently from Plugin Alliance, and I picked it up, and it sounds unbelievable. Just absolutely unbelievable. I'm really looking forward to putting it on lots and lots of stuff in my songs, in my productions, and in my mixes, and in my masters. It sounds really, really good. The top end has this musicalness to it and this sweetness to it that this is a bold statement, and I've not had enough time with it to really say this definitively, but it might be some of my favorite top end I've ever heard on a plugin. It's really, really good. Next up is another plugin from Plugin Alliance, and it's the SPL-PQ. Now, I'm actually kind of in the hunt for a hardware version of this. I've wanted the SPL-PQ for a long time now. And so I finally decided just to pick up the software version, the plugin version, because I do think that most plugins, especially if they've come out somewhat recently and if they're well done, most plugins are 90 or 95% of what the hardware is. And so I picked this one up on sale as well from Plugin Alliance, and it just, man, it sounds really, really good. The low end on it is incredible. When you start pushing the low end, everything stays so tight and so controlled, but you just have however much of it you want. It's really, really a good EQ and extremely versatile. It seems to work on absolutely everything. So honorable mention for plugins. Next up, we have the Boss Waza Tube Amp Expander. Now, I did a whole video on this as well. When I decided to redo my room here for Atmos and for this sound, for fixing the problems in my room, I knew that I was not gonna have room for my ISO cab. I used to run an ISO cab in here. I've run that ISO cab since I moved to Nashville 9 years ago, but it was huge. I mean, it was the size of a coffin. And I just knew that I wouldn't have room for it in the newest version of this room. And so I went on the hunt for a cabinet simulator situation that I wouldn't feel held back by. I was not willing to make sacrifices on this. I was not willing to use something if I thought it was subpar. And so thank you to Sweetwater. They sent me every single thing they carried. Every amp simulator or cabinet simulator that they offered, they sent them all to me. And I mean, I tried all of them for weeks, and I sent back everything that I didn't want, and I kept the Waza Tube Amp Expander because a lot of them sound good. There's a lot of them that sound good, but the Waza Tube Amp Expander is the only one that I thought felt good. Even though specifically one of the other options, I'll just say it, the Universal Audio aux box. I think the aux box sounded pretty good, maybe as good as the Boss, but it didn't feel as good. When I narrowed it down to the aux box and the Waza, I just kept finding myself wanting to plug in to the Boss over and over and over. Now, I think, caveat, they all sound like crap out of the box. Every single one of them, I think, sound like garbage out of the box. I really had to dig in, and I really had to create custom profiles and custom presets and custom EQ curves, and I really had to push hard to get any of them to sound usable. And the aux box and the Waza Tube Amp Expander were my two favorites, and between the two of them, I just found myself plugging into the Boss more and more and more. So I can't say enough good things about it. If you're looking to go direct and you're looking to take real tube amps, actual amps, and run them direct with no cabinet, this is, in my opinion, the best option money can buy as of 2023. Next up, the Avid MBox Studio. Now, I did do a whole video on this, and I'll link it down below. I just think it's perfect. If it does everything that you need an interface / monitor controller to do, I think it's about perfect. The layout of it is perfect. The functionality of it is perfect. Its options and level of I/O, I think, is as good as it gets in the under $1,000 price range. Now, in that video, some people were suggesting another interface, and I can't remember what it was. And I did some looking in it, and I definitely would choose the Avid over that suggestion. It just suits what I needed for a standalone single interface / monitor controller. Runs 2 sets of monitors, separate independent headphone mixes with independent volume controls for 2 headphones. The preamps sounded really good and clean. Like it just sounded good. That's my list for 2023. I want to really thank you guys for following along this year. Thank you guys for being a part of this journey, and thank you guys for being here with me through all of this. Thank you guys for helping me, however you want to say it, experience all of this stuff. 2023 was an interesting year. Some of the highest highs of my life and some of the lowest lows of my life. I had the most serious health issues I've ever had in my life in 2023. I was in the hospital multiple times for different health issues, and I feel like I have most of them sorted out at this point. And I also had an incredible year of working on some of my favorite music I've ever worked on, and doing some of my favorite videos I've ever done, and using some of the gear I've ever used, and being included in the launch events for some of my favorite gear I've ever used. Overall, it was a good year, and I hope it was for you as well. And I hope that in some way I can help be a part of your success next year. Hopefully I can help teach you guys and coach you guys, and hopefully I can help your music career grow in 2024. So thank you for being around for all of this with me, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.